Utter destruction. The blaze broke out just before 7 o'clock last night. Cardiff fiberglass business Murtec didn't stand a chance.
It's definitely gut-wrenching.
Around 50 firefighters from 6 stations battled the inferno well into the early hours of this morning.
It took approximately 2 hours to contain the fire to that building of origin and approximately 5 hours to actually extinguish the fire all up.
So fierce, a 100-metre exclusion zone was put in place.
We weren't sure of what was in the building, where there was risks of LPG, acetylene cylinders, so as a precaution we closed the Cardiff rail line down.
Jeff Spruce, who's owned the building since 1981, watched in horror as it went up in flames.
We're pretty depressed, but to say that, but we're very also glad that no one was hurt or no one was injured.
It's believed one of the workers who was in the building here last night discovered a small fire in one of the rooms, but by the time he raised the alarm, it was already too late. Just metres away, Kel Whittaker Smash Repairs was lucky to have been spared. Detectives are still working to determine what sparked the inferno.
It's been one of the largest fires I've been to for a while in Newcastle, yes.
Stephanie Jeans, NBN News. The 23-year-old victim was walking along Parry Street at around 8:30 p.m. on July 11 last year when Daniel Paul Keeley attacked her. She was dragged into a laneway and threatened with a knife before being sexually assaulted. Keeley, then a 30-year-old Bar Beach resident, was arrested a month later as he arrived at Sydney Airport following a trip to Bali. He later pleaded guilty to 3 counts of aggravated sexual assault and 1 count of aggravated robbery. Today he was sentenced in Newcastle District Court to 15 years behind bars with a non-parole period of 12. In sentencing, Judge Wells noted the immense impact the crime has had on the young victim, who's been left with severe depression. Given time already served, Keeley will be eligible for parole in August 2023. Kath Landers, NBN News.
There are big plans for this piece of land at Glendale to become a thriving town centre. The Hunter Development Corporation and Railcorp are looking into the property's potential.
I think the process now is to go through and prove up things like mine subsidence, whether there's any issues with flora and fauna, look into the traffic, look into the marketability of the land. So there's going to be some quite expensive pieces of investigation and infrastructure that have to go in, but I think at the end of the day, just given where it is and the gravity of development around it, it's going to be a key piece of property into the future.
It's part of a regional master plan for Glendale.
Yeah, Lake Macquarie Council have been working very hard for a long time, about 6 years in fact, to deliver on the needs they identified for the Cardiff Industrial Estate and the Glendale precinct.
But Liberal member for Charlestown Andrew Cornwell claims the chance for investment could be at risk.
With the local government election, there are political parties involved in it that have formed an alliance that are against further development and are against further investment. The Labor Party should seriously rethink this tawdry deal they've done with Back to Basics.
But Labor's Lake Macquarie mayoral candidate Jodie Harrison has rejected the claims, saying the party supports development and that it has no alliance with the Back to Basics independents. Amy Ziniak, NBN News.
So what I'd be looking at doing is getting designs in and also then having a period of time where tradies, for example, and apprentices can participate in the building of bus shelters.
It was a hero's welcome. Waving Aussie flags and the boxing kangaroo, pupils at St Joseph's Kilburn Bay were definitely proud of their Nathan, and his face said it all. The school's former student, now an Olympic gold medalist.
It was an incredible feeling, and to win the way we did with such a huge points lead, just meant that we could enjoy it so much in the final race.
Today he showed off his treasured trophy, one of only 7 gold Australia won in London.
Since coming home, Nathan says the support has been absolutely overwhelming, and the one thing you have to get used to is definitely the celebrity treatment.
Straight after the Olympics, Outridge notched up another podium placing, a third as skipper at the America's Cup World Series in San Francisco. Home now, it won't be long until he's back out on the water.
I'm heading off again on Friday, off to do a Far 40 Worlds in Chicago, and then back to San Francisco to do the next leg of the World Series for the America's Cup.
But now he's seen as a threat.
People are starting to realise that, even though I'm only 26, I can mix it with the guys who've been doing this for 20 years or so.
Outridge and fellow 49er gold medalist Ian Jensen will be treated to a street parade in Wangi tomorrow morning. Amy Ziniak, NBN News.
Off, Matty Elliott seemed to get a pretty good start. Just dwelling on the blocks, Jessica Long of the United States, and then she was quickly into her stroke. It's up front though, and going through in first spot, it looked like it was Jessica Long. Behind her is Demeanor and Jang as well, looking for the States. Jessica Long is first, and her time is 1 minute 11.53. She's outside her, 1:10.32. She's
We're really looking forward to him developing and getting to understand what we look to try and do in regards to our style of play and our structures.
Personally, I think I'm getting there, which is good. I don't want to peak too early, and I think that team-wise we're getting things together. We've got plenty of things to work on.
In Marks Point, word hasn't quite spread to the rabbits that behind this suburban house is a set of kennels and a very fast greyhound on the verge of a fairy tale win. It's also the home to a veteran trainer hungry for victory after 40 years of trying.
We like each other while she's winning.
Can she keep winning?
I think so, yeah.
Jeff Sattler and Ellie, better known as Cavendish Flyer, will tomorrow night lead the way for the locals in Newcastle's biggest race of the year, the Group 2 Black Top. Together, they've moved through the classes, winning 7 races, including a country championship in near track record time. This one, though, won't be a walk in the park.
I think she'll give a good account of herself. She's not boxed very well, and sort of in big races, boxers are worth gold to you if you're where you want to be.
The draw of 6 so bad, not even Cavendish Flyer wants to know about it.
I think they're all going to be fairly well equal at the first turn, and it's going to be a matter of who's the bravest and who's the luckiest from there on.
As always, there's a 1 in 8 chance.
Ready to jump?
Go, Ellie.
And Cavendish Flyer defied the odds to win last week's heat.
Go, Ellie. Go, Ellie.
If she can do that again, there'll be more than just photos around the house.
Oh, she might be moving into the house.
Nice. Have you told your wife?
No, not yet, but for 40,000 she'd probably let her move in.
We haven't even been shown the development. I mean, that's how ridiculous this statement is. Back to Basics is about streamlining the development application process.
The Golden Boys were greeted by a community overflowing with pride. They left for London 6 weeks ago. Today, they traded the waters of Weymouth for a sea of supporters in Wangi.
We saw photos every day of what was going on back home, and it made us immensely proud.
Their win in the 49er class, years in the making, catapulted them into the spotlight and delivered overnight stardom.
To see them all come out and support me and Nathan is just staggering. There's obviously a lot of work that went into this, and me and Nathan are extremely grateful for that.
While the homecoming's been humbling, it's also revealed a new fan following.
They're really cute and everything.
One actually alluded to the use of the Wangi version of One Direction. What do you think about
that? We're looking for the girls.
Very interesting. Going on the Olympian Wants a Wife?
No, nothing going on.
A month ago, Wangi was a little-known town in Lake Macquarie. Now it's known around the world as the birthplace of Olympic gold.
These days you've got to make an appointment to see him. He's overseas or he's got media commitments.
They're really awesome and I love their gold medals.
Kath Landers, NBN News.
I was real nervous. It was good. It's good just to see this stage, you know, and I honestly, I don't think I've seen much better than this.
Oh, I am so excited a lot because I just like to thank my mum because she's the best mum in the whole wide world.
South pulled off the near impossible to make the finals, and it appeared they'd slip under the guard of the big guns again. Chris Mowbrow's the first try in an opening 20 minutes where the chances went begging. Maitland had the share of possession but had trouble hanging on to the ball. Eventually, though, they got it right, Brenton Horwood getting the pickers on the board. Both went looking out wide, but it was a red-hot Lions outfit who made the most of the opportunities. They'd go into the break with an 8-6 lead. Many had been saying we hadn't seen the best of the pickers this season, but in the second half, they gave a glimpse. A Billy Towers try was soon followed by another, Darcy Etridge, showing the home side was more than determined to make it to a third consecutive grand final. But with the loser out for the year, it wasn't a pretty ending. Eventually, 2 from each side sent to the bin, and although Maitland had the win, perhaps they'll have more concerns heading into next week.
When Jeff McCloy returned home this afternoon, he wasn't expecting this. Flyers authorised by State Labor's General Secretary focusing on sites across the city sitting idle.
Those 16 sites aren't my sites. We have done about 17 buildings up, substantial. We have only have 2 sites which we haven't completed the works on because we can't quite get them to stack yet. We've got a new DA going on one site and we've got an amended DA going on the other site.
Labor candidate Nuatali Nelms says it's not personal.
I don't know exactly how many properties Jeff owns around Newcastle. Engaging him to take action on those properties is a really positive thing for Newcastle.
But Mr McCloy says Labor has gone too far.
How much money have they spent back in this city? How much money have they done as individuals back in the city? How many jobs directly have they employed? None.
Father's Day brought sunny skies across Newcastle and many dads made the most of it. But for some lucky men, the day delivered much more than good weather. Tristan Hemmer welcomed his baby girl Lotus into the world.
After much waiting and pushing and some tense moments and a very handy epidural, this little one came along at 7:30 this morning.
And at £9.11, she's a big present in more ways than one.
It is not a cordless drill that I was wanting, but probably better. Definitely better.
The day's also been extra special for NBN cameraman Grant McIntyre and his wife Fiona. Their 2 sons now have a little sister, Evie May.
This is pretty good. It doesn't get much better than this. It's the best Father's Day present you could hope for.
Meanwhile, White Ribbon released a timely new report focusing on the importance of fathers being good role models for their children and how that in turn can help reduce violence towards women.
Father's Day just highlights the fact that, children today are looking up to their fathers, they're honouring their fathers, and there's nothing better than being a good father and having your child respect you and for that child to tell you that they love you.
Incredibly happy with that swim, and obviously I'm absolutely stoked to win a bronze.
They posed after last year's grand final, but just getting into this year's was going to be tough. Gun centre forward Peter Haynes was an early casualty for Broadmeadow, but if anything, it didn't work in Edgeworth's favour. The Magic simply muscled up. Michael Kanarowski went close. But it was Hacken Carnley who perhaps had the best of the early chances. Edgeworth, under pressure, tried to catch the home side off guard. And that wasn't the only long-range missile that nearly hit the target. The Eagles eventually found their way into the box, and from close range, Alex Polozzi made no mistake. But less than 3 minutes later, Broadmeadow hit back. Scott Pettit setting up a thrilling second half, and the man who's led the way for the Magic this season gave his side another leg up. 2-1, and while Edgeworth played to the whistle, their season slipped away.
Ballerina into the back, about 3 lengths away to Bye Bye Sid, followed by Kelly's Hero into the back straight, and then Tomato Ketchup, Cavendish Flyer, and Bubba's Dream at the tail. Bye Bye Bucks the leader, got away 2 lengths to Spiral Ballerina, and then Zara Zulu, but it's Bye Bye Bucks in front. Bye Bye Bucks wins the blacktop. Second, Spiral Ballerina, all Zara Zulu, and then Billy the Sid. They were followed up by Cavendish Flyer, Tomato Ketchup, Kelly's Hero, and Bubba's Dream was one of the last to pull up.
A minimum of $15 million over 10 years to complete the East-West Cycleway. That's one of Nuatali Nelms's priorities if she's elected Lord Mayor, despite the council's infrastructure backlog and multi-million-dollar deficit.
We have the East-West Cycleway link that connects Broadmeadow, Wallsend and outer suburbs into the CBD, but at the moment it finishes here in Broadmeadow behind the Hunter Stadium.
She'd like to see bike lanes with barriers, similar to those in Melbourne, Brisbane and Sydney, to create a safe option for cycling commuters, particularly over the Donald Street Bridge at Hamilton. Today's announcement follows yesterday's revelations that the ALP had produced flyers criticising candidate Jeff McCloy and focusing on sites sitting idle. He told NBN News they're misleading and bordering on defamatory, but the Labor candidate has no regrets.
Jeff has a lot of questions to answer in terms of his conflicts of interest, and as it stands, he cannot actually be involved in any discussions where he has conflicts of interest.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Jeff McCloy can't believe his eyes. A $7 million project where the knocks and the costs just keep coming.
The ratepayers are justifiably angry. They should be angry.
There was plenty of fanfare when the number 2 sports ground opened in May. A new home for rugby, a place for the grand finals of all codes. But now Rugby League won't be there for its decider in 2 weeks.
Is the ground big enough to hold a grand final there?
For us, in a normal circumstance, yeah, probably not. And that was absolutely, from the outset, probably one of the concerns.
There you have practical people like in the Rugby League that wants to hold it or supposed to hold a grand final here. They certainly weren't listened to. They're the people running the business.
And therefore the dollars aren't forthcoming for council. Clearly revenue from parking isn't going well, the function centre hasn't been used, the ground itself closed for 2 months while repairs are done to the surface. Before that, the grass went down before the drainage, money ran out before the seating was completed, and the grandstand was declared a fire safety hazard in a leaked report.
It's not planned properly, the fire access, they've got to hire fire wardens for goodness sake. I mean, how impractical is that?
Newcastle Council says it won't comment on issues surrounding number 2 until after Sunday's council elections. Nat Wallace, NBN News.
Underwater keeps on popping up, we're looking at this, we're looking at that. I mean, here we go with the Lower Hunter Water Plan, which then is not due to the end of next year. So, it just goes on and on. Groundhog Day.
It's perfectly good food that would otherwise end up discarded, possibly dumped as landfill. But Oz Harvest is scouring cool rooms and kitchens across the Lower Hunter, collecting excess items from restaurants and supermarkets, including Aldi, Woolworths and Franklin's. The bright yellow van then hits the road and delivers to more than 54 charities and refuges. Among the increasing number of recipients, the Port Stephens Family Support Service, whose clients rely on the extra support.
Their children will have a feed and get up in the morning and have breakfast and go to school and, life can be as normal as possible.
Thankfully, the organisation's donating surplus food is also on the rise, with Steggles, National Foods, Wests Group and even a shopping centre among the 32 supporters.
Charlestown Square's come on board to put in a cool room for us, and we collect the food from all of the food court area, Woolworths and all of the Harris Farm Market, all the big suppliers out there.
300 tonnes of food has been served to the needy since February 2009, with a staggering 1 million meals soon to be served up. And Oz Harvest continues to grow.
We've got a new van hitting the road, so we've only got one van at present. A lot of people think that we've got a lot more vans, but the bright yellow van gets around a lot. Shane does a great job there. And we've got a second van going in to do the coalfields.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Gordon Allerton turns 50 this week, and it's truly a celebration of life, 10 years since he suffered a stroke.
I was 40 years old, no symptoms, no family history of stroke that I knew of, and found myself in hospital, very, very ill.
He was treated successfully and has made a good recovery.
That saved you.
Yeah.
Once they opened that up.
I've tried to do the right thing and get fit, stay fit, and understand strokes and what to avoid, and 10 years on I'm still here.
But what if you could identify those at risk of stroke, not just through lifestyle and age factors, but because of their genetic makeup? A team at the Hunter Medical Research Institute has found a clue.
And what we have found is a particular genetic variant that is more common in people with a large artery type of stroke.
Researchers have spent years analysing the genetic profiles of 1,200 stroke patients, comparing them to a control group. They struck gold on chromosome 6.
Most of this is noise, and this signal stands out very clearly.
Researchers believe there are more such signals to be discovered and could add up to profile those at higher risk.
Any information we can collate that helps to identify people who might have a stroke and to prevent that from happening would have huge benefits.
I think it's fantastic. I think obviously there needs to be more research in all these areas.
And there will be. The team is back in the lab working on understanding the biology behind their discovery.
Regarded as a true gentleman, meteorologist Des Hart was NBN's first weather presenter. He pioneered a method of using sliding boards to display the latest information, which was handwritten onto each screen. And at the time, it was state-of-the-art technology. While Des handled Monday to Friday, Nat Jeffrey got a start as the weekend weatherman.
In those days, we used to get our information by telex. So the telex would pump out some information for me. The synoptic chart in those days, we used to get in codes of latitude and longitude, and I'd have to go and actually plot the points on a chart and then draw the isobars in, and then go downstairs into the studio with a black texter and actually draw the isobars on a Perspex chart that we had down there, a map of Australia. And we had little discs with temperatures and rainfall figures on them that we used to stick onto the boards with blue tack. And of course, sometimes they would fall off. You'd be standing delivering the weather and you'd hear this tink.
Des had the knack of calmly explaining the science behind the weather and often took his blackboard into the field. On this occasion, he was speaking to young boaties at the Belmont 16-foot Sailing Club on Lake Macquarie. By the time Nat Jeffrey took over as weatherman in the mid-80s, the technology had advanced a little.
Ray always used to tell me that I took it too seriously, but I knew how important the weather was, especially then, because people didn't have access to the internet like they do now. And television was probably the main source of weather information in those days. And I knew because of the rural community in the NBN viewing area that they needed fairly reliable weather information, so I took it seriously. And there were so many other people that wanted to know what was happening, whether we're the surfers and hang glider pilots and fishermen and boating people, and everybody has an interest in it at some stage or another, even if it's just to know whether you want to take an umbrella when you're going to work. So yeah, I was passionate about it. I'm still passionate about it.
Tomorrow night, we catch up with weatherman number 3 and we find out who inspired our current weather presenter.
I put it on the line tonight and mate, I give it just about everything I had.
I'm still pumping, but I'm still pretty happy, so I'm not tired at all.
A few sombre North Stars today reflecting on last night's loss.
Just kicking rocks around the room, I'm just devastated.
Newcastle faced Melbourne Ice in front of a sold-out home crowd, and early the faithful fans celebrated Beau Taylor's shot. A flying Olivier Martin took goaltending to an extreme, and it only spurred on the North Stars' defence, on the back of which Brian Bales found a way through. The Novocastrians up 2-0 and in good spirits, but it didn't last. Melbourne mounted a comeback, Liam Webster producing one of 4 unanswered goals. A seemingly impossible shot became a reality for Newcastle's Kevin Day. It led to a tense finish, but there were no more cracks in the ice, Melbourne holding on to secure 3 straight premierships.
We lost at the end of the day, but we still had a successful season.
Rob Lawrence was named the competition's best defender, while Jeremy Boyer shared the MVP award.
It's been a thrill to be here, and it's been my pleasure.
Will you be back next year? It must be in the back of your mind somewhere.
Yeah, I've told people yes.
That could change if another offer comes around, but goaltender Martin is far from finished.
My plan is to stick around and play another year or 2 years, 3 years, whatever it takes. We're going to win.
Win that premiership?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Meanwhile, it was last drinks for this retired Newcastle basketball trio after the Hunters' shock semi-final loss to the Sydney Comets in the Waratah Basketball League.
Probably the sadder way to go out, having to go out on a loss, but so be it.
Maybe I'll be around coaching just like some of the old guys that I used to watch play as well, yeah.
After a slow start, Newcastle clawed its way back but eventually went down 81-78.
Take something out of the fact that we were the minor premiers and things like that, but at the end of the day, we didn't get what we wanted.
Mad Monday, the obvious remedy.
Bit of fun out here today?
I'd say so. It's good you guys got in here early, I think.
Kevin Metham, NBN News.
Down on the ground and lean back a bit so you can see that until the power lines are touching on the ground. So it's rough. And you realise it's too much. The power lines at this stage are already down on the ground and lean back a bit so you can see that until the power lines are touching on the ground. So it's rough. And you realise it's too much.
And for Hunter Valley youngster Madison Elliott, what a moment. Ballina's girl Jackie Freeney powered home to secure gold, our girl smashing the world record.
No, I did not know about the world record. I was just wanting to win that gold medal.
And the cheers could be heard back in Madison's hometown of Newcastle. She's the youngest Australian Paralympian ever to win gold, and Bishop Tyrrell Anglican College couldn't be prouder of their girl.
I was screaming and I was so happy, so everyone's proud of her.
Is she a bit of an inspiration to everyone here at school?
She is. We were talking about how she's doing so much with her life and we're sitting here going, wow, she's just amazing.
And the Hunter's Golden Girl can expect a hero's welcome when she returns home.
We're that excited. We think it's, we sent her away with a big send-off, and then at the same time we've got something specially planned for her on her return.
Stephanie Jeans, NBN News. Last November, there was this.
You'll find, I think, there's an announcement in the next week to two about the timelines for that integrated transport approach.
Then in March.
I believe we'll certainly see it within the next 2 months. There's no doubt about that.
Then in April, suggestions the future of the rail line would be outlined in the final Transport Master Plan due in November.
Most certainly, I would suggest so.
The draft plan is now out, mentioning only the debate surrounding the rail line's future, while indicating its fate is now in the hands of the state's planning department, pending another government plan. Today, Tim Owen offered this.
This is a draft Transport Master Plan that is out there to take submissions, and clearly my sense is its finality will coincide with the finality pretty closely of the infrastructure plan for New South Wales.
According to the government, a major sticking point is servicing the city campus development for Newcastle University.
Well, obviously, when you're looking at issues like the future of the rail, and it goes beyond just a public transport issue, it's about the future of Newcastle itself and the future of the Hunter.
The inner city transport system, one that needs a total review.
As far as the broader plan's concerned, improving bus services, completing the Hunter Expressway and the inner-city bypass all got a mention. So did considerations to extending the F3 to Raymond Terrace and the long-awaited plan for the freight rail bypass. But neither have funding allocations. Kath Landers, NBN News.
It's the never-ending battle, and these guys refuse to surrender. The Newcastle Drug Action Team spent the day brainstorming ways to tackle the city's drug and alcohol problems. Even the boys in blue got on board.
It's been great to see everybody coming together.
Their priority, reducing alcohol abuse, and in particular, encouraging communication between parents dealing with teens wanting their first taste.
For parents to share their experiences and discuss all those challenges that they're going through with teenagers who are wanting to drink. Do we give them some alcohol? Do we not?
Newcastle has much to be proud about, having one of the most significant reductions in alcohol-related violence in the world.
But we're still a long way off from winning the war. A Hunter New England health study released earlier this year claims that the region has the highest rate of male risky drinkers in the state.
Every weekend.
Do you drink to get drunk?
Oh yeah.
Why?
It's fun.
You don't think about the risks or what could do to you in the long run?
Not really.
Those who have felt the effects of drug addiction have this message.
Well, I'm in recovery at the moment because I have a history of, drug issues and alcohol issues, yeah.
Ease up on the drink?
Yeah, ease up on the drink, yeah. It gets us nowhere in the long run.
Stephanie Jeans, NBN News.
Sunday saw Newcastle's Labor mayoral candidate Nuatali Nelms in hot water over a pamphlet taking aim at rival Jeff McCloy. Now the Labor Party has hit another hurdle, this time in Lake Macquarie. Its how to vote card for the East Ward promoting Jodie Harrison for mayor fails to identify Group E as being Liberal. Instead, each candidate was named as an independent. Pre-poll voting began last week, and that's got the Liberal Party's Ken Paxenos concerned.
Look, it's all has a play at the final vote, and every vote does count. So it's very hard to say that this wouldn't have had an impact on my chances as mayor and as our ward councillors in East Ward.
Mrs Harrison refused to comment on how the mistake happened.
I think that the attention that's being made on this issue shows just how out of touch the Liberals really are.
As for whether she believes it will affect her opposition's chances,
I think the people of Lake Macquarie are smarter than that.
Meanwhile, Jeff McCloy has put the accusation levelled at him on Sunday that the former Lucky Country Hotel is sitting idle to bed. Today he released concept designs for the site. The amended DA will go to council this week.
We've got the beautiful fabric of old brick here, we've got this fantastic fabric of exposed timbers and the original BHP steel there, and we need to bring that into the design.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Last night, we paid tribute to NBN's original weatherman Des Hart, who pioneered using sliding screens to present the weather information. In the mid-80s, Nat Jeffrey took over from Des and stayed in the role for 17 years. NBN's third weatherman was Gary Youngberry.
It was a very exclusive club. I did feel privileged to be only the third generation weather presenter in that time. Look, at first I thought I may stay there forever and a day. It was a dream come true working there, but sometimes you just have to open other doors.
Gary left to become Channel 9's weather presenter in Brisbane, and stepping into the role as the fourth presenter was Gavin Morris. Gav says it was a small hardcover book and a visit to his school by a real TV weatherman that inspired him.
Well, amazingly, my first ever experience was with NBN's first weatherman, Des Hart. He came to my school and he had this with him. This was my first ever book, and so this brings back a huge amount of memories for me.
And the technology has come a long way since those early days of the sliding screens.
We take our synoptic charts from Europe, we get our data from the Bureau here in Australia, it goes to New Zealand and then it bounces back to us. So it's a bit of a global event every single time you look at those charts that appear in the news every single night now, compared to just drawing them in through the day with the old texter.
Nat Jeffrey says you never stop being a weatherman.
And it's one of those things, having been a television weatherman for something like 17 years, it never goes away. People still daily talk to me about the weather and still expect me to know what's happening for the next, few days or so.
But the last word goes to NBN's original gentleman of weather, Des Hart.
Wanting to win that gold medal.
James Brown is hardly fighting fit. The star signing from the Gold Coast likely to undergo surgery in the next 3 days to fix the ankle behind some amazing goals last year.
Just needs a clean-up and from my understanding it'll be a 4 to 6 weeker, but it's best to get it done now.
Brown was a key Jets signing. In fact, a poll on the A-League website has him the third most valuable off-season buy. He's 12%, only behind Ben Halloran and the Victory's Marcos Flores.
He can do things because he's a real instinctive player that not many other people think about doing and get out of certain areas. So, it's bad luck that we don't have him right at this moment.
But it does open the door for Marko Jesic, who starred in the trial win over the Roar on the weekend. He not only set up the lone goal, but also won over his harshest critic.
He seems to have turned himself around a little bit in regards to his training and his general attitude in regards to his work ethic.
And there's no problems in that department for Mark Birighitti. The new signing is putting it all on the line to win the starting goalie spot.
I'm very competitive and, I won't back down and as I said, I really want that #1 spot and I'll be pushing hard to get that.
With regular Ben Kennedy likely to return to full training tomorrow, both will play half a game in the next trial against Sydney FC this weekend.
There's a split here between him and BK, so the one thing we wanted was competition in that spot and we've definitely got it.
Birighitti, no doubt, hoping for more saves like this. The kick from last year's Golden Boot winner, Bursat Berisha.
Some days you make those saves, some days you don't, and I was more fortunate to get a great hand on it and flick it over the bar.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.